Welcome back to Dow Twine. I'm Dave. We're going to jump right in here today. We've got kind of a skank rhythm, like a reggae type rhythm here. I'll have several minutes of this in MP3 format down below in the attachment, so you can use this backing track if you want to practice these skills. Or you could make your own loop or something. And if you're not used to playing that kind of skank rhythm, or that, one maybe that'd be fun just to mess around with that, right? Here's the track. Just A minor and G. So you can do that kind of pretty straight like that, or you can put in the little every once in a while. Right? So now, let's leave this on and get right into it here. We're going to use the blues scale, and really it's blues licks taken from the style of like Freddie King or Clapton or something. But we're taking like kind of segments of them, right? Rather than a whole phrasing of a couple of bars, we're just taking like kind of what 3 or 4 of these would make up a whole Clapton phrase or something like this. Okay, something like that, right? And I'll slow this down in just a second, but you could think of this. You could think of that as a lick, right? But these little pieces of it, if you chunk it out, are licks in and of themselves. Okay, so now let's turn this off for a second. So, those weren't real thoughtful phrasings, a lot of it, or it's just kind of, sometimes when you're practicing this stuff and learning it, let yourself just wander. Part of this is going to be, I'm going to show you a routine for practicing in that manner to really get your hand warmed up and used to making these kinds of moves. Okay. Right, and that's just practice, right? Then notice I used the same phrasing of one of the licks several times in a row, and that started to sound a little more something that it could really shape into more of a kind of a nicer contoured set of licks. Okay, so see, that repetition is what really is if we put this in 2 buckets. One is they both involve repetition, but one of them involves it in sort of a rote way. the other one involves it in more of a thoughtful or slowed down and kind of more almost vocalizing way. So let's go with some of the fun, kind of faster little hammers and pull-offs here first, right? So going right down this minor pentatonic scale. Okay, we can make a little routine to practice this. So I'm starting up here, I'm going down. These are all, if you have two notes on the same string. Okay, but use that basic shape of that scale. Okay, move down to the next two strings and use the shape again. Right, the shape's different now because all right. Use whatever fingers you want. Some folks use their pinky more. I tend to do like kind of a reach over. But I will do, I'll throw it in there too. It kind of depends on where you're going and later on like what's happening before and after that portion of the lick, right? But mess around with it both ways. Here I like to use my pinky because this one just kind of naturally gets put right there. All right, then down here, next to set of two strings down. See how they're all the same? Now you just put in, some of your kind of more, this is out of the second bucket, right? Then you've got, say, just, a box like this. And you kind of, start to say like, oh, wow, that doesn't just sound like I'm like just doing this kind of A, B, plugging stuff in and kind of a mindless way. Because you're not. You're these, when you pull the trigger on these licks, right? They're just kind of, you want those to become sort of automatic. But then you want to put it in the context of this other singing, stuff. See that? And you can also start from the lower note of the two first notes, right, on the same string. See how even when I'm practicing, I just sort of instinctively put a more vocalized, I call it, or like, singing lick in with it. Right? Because it kind of gives you almost like an ear fatigue if you just do the rote stuff. You can practice it like that, but very early in this process, you want to start mixing the two buckets, right? And get a good, not just back and forth, but almost like just blended use of those, right? So let's put the track on and try some of this out. And again, not the best solo I ever played there or whatever, but that's okay because we're working on specific skills, right? This is trial and error, you know. Um, it's like, oh, we got a plan, but we've got to do work to kind of see how these maneuvers can fit into our own individual language. It's different for every person. We're always talking about Clapton this and Frampton that and Freddie King, and of course these are all people that are exceptional. They're one in a million. They're you know they're the the oracle or whatever. That's where we get the information, right? But we use it in our own way, and that's what makes all of this so much fun and so cool. Um, Embrace that individuality, right? Um, uh, Others on YouTube and myself are showing you very often the source material that we're getting from this sort of establishment of players, right? And we mention their names a lot. And sometimes we're literally going note for note or whatever, but most of the time we're talking about sort of um, 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 uh, the language of those individuals, right? So this has a lot of Freddie King types of. Right, I mentioned him a lot because there's a lot of influence. I did a lot of playing with those records. I copied some of it note for note, but more than anything else, I just put hours of just jamming with it. It rubs off on you, right? So a little bit about moving to some other positions. So let's go back to this bucket number one. Well, if you're familiar with the different shapes of pentatonic, as they're often referred to, this being one, then two, and you can just guess from there. You can see what's going to happen already, right? Every one of them, this will work. I love that little position. What if I just hang out right here with the track for a second? Okay. Chair's making a lot of noise. It must be sitting in a weird angle or something. So there, I kind of let myself go a little bit more. I didn't mean to just, you know, make such a flurry of them or whatever. But what I wanted you to see is the similarity, how the same thing is being used a lot, right? And then when I slow down and play a little bit deeper, vocalizing type of lick, then it starts to come together as a real solo or improvisation, and not just this kind of running around doing this one trick pony deal, right? But that embellishment, which is really what it is constantly happening in the style of a lot of these blues players. And the fact that we're doing it over a different kind of backing track today just helps to sort of expand our thinking to recognize that, in all of these different forms, this pentatonic scale is being used in a similar manner. Not just the notes, the sequence of the notes and the intervals, but the actual technique of how we move. Right? When it's a blues lick, but it works beautifully in a lot of these other stylistic um, um, context, right? So I think that's good. I think if you take this first position and then start to move around, and you're going to recognize a lot of it, but you might surprise yourself, like, oh wow, I don't know, didn't really like don't really hang out there and kind of use that the potential that's really in each one of those shapes. And a lot of this was happening on like the first two or three strings, speaking from highest to lowest, right? And that's good too because you get that kind of diagonal movement going with the vertical shapes, and that sounds really cool and leads to a lot of nice slides and things when you change those locations. All right. Well, how did I do? I always start off thinking I'm going to do a real concise, thing or whatever. And no, this isn't bad. We got we nailed this one down, I think, pretty good in about 16 and a half minutes. So hopefully that helps you kind of keep it all in, you know, in focus, get to the practice loop and really start, do some work off to the side to figure out what you're doing, but then get in there and really let yourself go, have some fun. Let me know how it goes. Great to hear from everybody. Thanks to everybody that's joined up recently. We've had quite a few folks join recently, actually. So if I haven't reached out to you personally yet, I will be doing that. Thank you. See you next week.